Love. 6 minutes to 6, said the clock over the information booth in New York's Grand Central Station. The tall young Army lieutenant lifted his sunburned face and narrowed his eyes to note the exact time. His heart was pounding with a beat that shocked him. In 6 minutes, he would see the woman who had filled such a special place in his life for the past 13 months. The woman he had never met, yet whose written words had sustained him unfailingly. Her encouragement proved the goodness of God. Lieutenant Blandford remembered one day in particular, the worst of the fighting, when his plane had been caught in the midst of a pack of enemy planes. In one of his letters, he had confessed to her that he often felt fear, and only a few days before this particular battle, he had received her answer. "Of course you fear. All brave men do. Next time you doubt yourself, remember that God will never leave you. I want you to hear my voice reciting to you, 'Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me.'" He had remembered, and God had renewed his strength through her words. Now he was going to hear her real voice. 4 minutes to 6. A girl passed close to him, and Lieutenant Blandford started. She was wearing a flower, but it was not the little red rose they had agreed upon. Besides, this girl only looked 18. Holly Maynell had told him that she was 30. "What of it?" he had answered. "I'm 32. He was 29. His mind went back to the book he had read in training camp. Of human bondage it was, and throughout the book were notes in woman's writing. He had never believed that a woman could see into a man's heart so tenderly, so understandingly. He knew she had to have a close walk with the Lord to have such insight. Her name was on the book plate, Holly Maynell. Praying hard, he had gotten hold of a New York City telephone book and found her address. He had written, and she had answered. The next day he had been shipped out, but they had gone on, writing faithfully. For 13 months she had replied to his letters. When his letters did not arrive, she wrote anyway. And now he believed that he loved her and she loved him. God was so good to him. He was not only alive, but had someone to love as well. But she had refused all his pleas to send him her photograph. She had explained, "If your feelings for me are God's will, what I look like won't matter. Suppose I'm beautiful. I'd always be haunted by the feeling that you were taking a chance on just that, and that kind of love would disgust me. Suppose I'm plain, and you must admit that this is more likely. Then I'd always fear you were only going on writing because you were lonely and had no one else. No, don't ask for my picture. When you come to New York, you shall see me and make your decision." 1 minute to 6. Then Lieutenant Blandford's heart leaped. A young woman was coming toward him. Her figure was long and slim. Her blonde hair lay back in curls from her delicate ears. Her eyes were as blue as flowers. Her lips and chin had a gentle firmness. In her pale green suit, she was like springtime come alive. He started for her, forgetting to notice that she wore no red rose, and as she moved by, a small smile curved her lips. He made one step closer to her, and then he saw Holly Maynell. She was standing almost directly behind the girl, a woman well past 40. Her graying hair was tucked under a worn hat, and she was more than plump. Her thick-ankled feet were thrust into low-heeled shoes, but she wore a red rose on her rumpled coat. Blandford felt as if though he were being split in two. So keen was his desire to follow the girl, yet so deep was the longing for the woman whose spirit had companioned and upheld his own, and there she stood. Lieutenant Blandford did not hesitate. His fingers gripped the worn copy of Human Bondage, which was to identify him to her. This would not be love, he thought, but something more precious, a friendship God had given him, a friendship for which he had been and must ever be grateful for. He squared his shoulders, saluted, and held out the book to the woman. although even while he spoke, he felt the bitterness of his disappointment. "I'm Lieutenant Blandford, and you are Miss Meynell. I'm so glad that we can meet. May I take you to dinner?" The woman's face broadened in a tolerant smile. "I don't know what this is all about, son," she answered. "That young lady in the green suit, she begged me to wear this red rose on my coat, and she said that if you were to ask me to go out with you, I was to tell you that she's waiting for you in that restaurant across the street. She said it was some kind of test.